difficulty. And here we are doing a little bit of sewing. Yeah, beautifully sewn up. Absolutely perfect. Here it is boiling away in the pot, and to the left you can see we did two of them, and to the left we roasted one. And so and here they are, because it says to serve with lemon. There is a sauce recipe at the end, but I don't think we made that. So as you can see, our research takes what we call the playing aspect of it, when you just take a recipe and you decide, does this work? Can we work? We're never going to make those for a Georgian dinner and produce 10 or 15. However, it keeps us going when we do an awful lot of the other kind of work, of producing those kinds of things. Well, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Baird, and very tough acts to follow. But I'm going to do my best. I will start off by saying that to admit that I'm neither a historian, nor a chef, nor a home economist, but I've always loved history and cooking and eating. So I think those are my qualifications. And I've long dabbled in culinary history. One of the evidences of this is Classic Canadian Cooking, which was published in 1974, where there is a Pippin tart and a few other things that you might from the Cook Not Mad. I have some references for Mrs. Beaton's jugged hare, and we did jug it in a jug with force meatballs. They were on the side. We did Susanna Moody's. I enjoyed what she wrote about, especially as she described Canadian pigs as being tall and gaunt with fierce, bristling manes, not like the pigs that are in Oxford County, I might add. And I especially enjoy Catharine Parr Traill's description of Canada as a land of cakes. And you would like to taste one of the cakes that she might even have made. But it wasn't until I was retired from Canadian Living magazine, just like Fiona having been dismissed, I was more or less dismissed too, because I was very obviously too old. Did I have the opportunity to reattach my love of history in a meaningful way to cooking? And I would like to say that everyone has a revelation, but the revelation to me came one day when I was bold enough to sign up for a cooking class at Fort York. Now, like a lot of people here, by that time I lived in Toronto for about 50 years. And I knew where Fort York was, but I wasn't quite sure how you got in. It didn't seem very obvious. But I plucked up my courage, and I spoke to a friend who was actually a friend of Fort York. And he told me, well, really, it wasn't so hard, and I could find my way. And I did come to one of the cooking classes in the officer's mess. And I think that what Fiona and then Bridget and Maya have done is to animate the kitchen in a way to invite people to come in. And I would think, if anyone here is interested in learning more about the cooking, you must come to a class. We can't take very many people at a time because it's a small kitchen, but it is the most immediate experience, and it turns people who love cooking and who love history into fanatics. And we also enjoy when we have a lot of public in, we have families, and Maya will get kids grating a nutmeg and smelling of this and the pounding of that. And when Bridget does the classes for school students, it's a cacophony because we have all of the mortar and pestle, and the kids just, of course, love doing that, and they make lots of noise, and nobody stops them because they have to grind that or grate that. So, anyway, It was a mixed menu the day that I took my first class there. And there was this Bridget Wranich in a very elegant gown, tall and slim, and she was using a recipe from the Cook Not Mad, which is 1831 Canada's first English language cookbook, and she was making a soft gingerbread with fruit. And she assembled the batter, and she put it into what's known as a Turk's cap. But that's just an old word for a bun pan, because we don't have many Turk's caps in the kitchen, but we do have bun pans. And sometimes you have to look at where the equipment has evolved. And she put it in the pan, and then she hauled out this copper thingamajig with little feet on it. It does have feet, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. It goes on a trivet. No, there's other things that it goes on a trivet. And it had a peculiar lid. It was an oval, beautiful. You would love to have it in your kitchen. It's about this big. It has a lid that comes down. It fits really neatly in, but it has a ridge on the top. So she put this cake pan into the Turk's head, that thing, put it right into the big oval copper pan, put the lid on, and then put coals on the top. And she set it on the trivet. She may put it on the trivet first. I mean, my details may. Anyway, I got coals underneath, coals on top, and I said, yeah, sure. And then, of course, 45 minutes later, emerged this absolutely fabulous cake, perfect, just smelling spices and molasses. And if anyone wants to reconnect with 1831, I can't think of a better way. So for me, who had spent a Canadian living, spent a lot of time fussing about where the cake pans sat in the oven, where the rack was, how we greased it, and the testing for doneness, and the oven temperature. Hey! This was nothing short of a miracle. Now, I've come to realize since that really cooking, and all these historians will maybe correct me, but cooking on a hearth and is really it's very mechanical. You have to lift, you have to shove, you have to move, and you have to grind, and it's really a very mechanical operation. And you can do anything you can do on a modern stove. It just takes a little more time. This was, for me, I guess I'm interested in how we spread this knowledge around, because there's only a limited number of people who can come to the classes, or that can take the children's program, or who can be involved in just coming to visit the fort on a special date. And I definitely recommend that you come and visit. But there are other ways we disseminate this knowledge, and it's the Queen Charlotte Ball has been mentioned, and if you want to see a bunch of people all looking like the people in Pride and Prejudice, all dressed up, dancing away, it's a great opportunity. And they're doing historic dances, and then we serve them historic baking, not unlike what you're going to get this morning. And then there's the Georgian dinner, very formal affair, and that's for which we test a lot of new recipes. And last fall we had a food symposium where we brought together the three elements of the Battle of York, and we had Aboriginal representatives, we had an American culinary scholar, and we had Canadian culinary scholars as well. And we actually made pemmican in the kitchen, and that was a first for absolutely everybody in the room. And it was great, it was a huge success. What I also think people find is useful about, or interesting about being at the fort, is that you get to know the cooks. Just like you know what to expect when you see a Nigella Lawson recipe, or a Martha Stewart recipe, or a Bonnie Stern recipe. You get to know which cooks speak to you. Is that the Elizabeth Moxon who gives you the ideal pastry? I recommend everyone copy down that recipe for a pastry. I make it all the time at home. I just substitute vodka for the rose water. It is fabulous. You can make it. You're going to taste it, and this is one of the things that's so nice about being in the historic kitchen and meeting the people, the visitors, is that you get to see their reaction, and they say, chocolate? You can have chocolate then? Yes, they did. And then we do the cake. A lot of the cakes use currants, and little kids will say, chocolate chips? No, no chocolate chips. Or when they encounter things like rose water or orange flower water or even caraway seeds, which is a favorite in that period. But I had a particular difficulty in adjusting to the fort because I had spent 40 years of my life taking recipes and creating recipes around a particular situation, and so to look at a recipe and know that I could not change it. I couldn't scale up the bread pudding, no, and I couldn't just add 2 extra slices because they were there, and I know any cook would have added it, but no, we cannot do it because we are very, very true to the recipes, and that is very important to be, because we don't do oatmeal cookies and we don't do brown bread. We do the authentic 18th century recipes that would have been cooked there, so that you really know. Just like we don't stick a mid-century modern coffee table in the officers' quarters. We have the furnishings and the kitchen equipment, and the food is authentic. So I did have to take a few blows in the kitchen. But I would like, one thing I'd like to talk to you about is just very briefly the programs that we are doing, not only, and I'm saying we because I'm kind of including myself in the royal group over there who have done all of the work, and is that we want the program to go further than the kitchen at Fort York. Bridget has done incredible and successful workshops on gingerbread at the St. Lawrence Market. Maya just came back from giving the Women's University Club of Leaside a cake tasting that they have never seen before. I think she took at least 10 cakes. So outreach programs that aren't so much formal as informal, and the opportunity this morning to talk to you is a way of spreading the word about Fort York and the research that's done there. We have also started to produce preserves and baked goods for the canteen, so that people can have macaroons that were made from Hannah glasses, the art of cookery made plain and simple. Now that's not an opportunity you get in Loblaws. We have lemon puffs from Eliza Smith, and I have a little theory here. In the 18th century, to be a good cookbook writer, you had to be either called Hannah or Elizabeth. Of course, we're thinking of bringing Elizabeth Moxon's short paste for tarts onto the market, but we don't know that we can keep up with the demand once people get there. You're going to taste a seed cake from A New and Easy Method of Cookery by Elizabeth Clareland. So those are some of the things that if you go to the fort, you can take a taste home with you. But the latest challenge has been to write a cookbook, or to do a cookbook that encapsulated some of the tastes of Fort York. It's evolved. I've been at the fort for I think 4 years now. It just kind of gets lost in history about how long you've actually been there. But we finally settled on a title, and one of the reasons that one of the impetus for settling on a title was actually coming here, because we looked at what we do at the fort, and we decided that we provided a fine table. This is not soldiers' rations. This is not stew. This is not some log cabin cookery. It's setting a fine table, and that's what the title of our cookbook has been. So thank you very much for the conference. So that we do have a repertoire of recipes that have already been tested, that have already been have historical information, and we're using those as the basis of our cookbook. We're adding to it, and we're actually doing something that's close to what my expertise was, which is to take all of the recipes together. We would say run through them or cook through them to make sure that they are consistent. Now these are not the historic recipes. These are the modern recipes that people can take a taste of Fort York home with them and cook themselves. So we're not weighing in these recipes, even though the originals were weighing. We are following the well-established Canadian tradition of volume cooking. So this creates a lot of challenges. And So, but I've really been very good. I haven't strayed. I haven't put in anything that's not supposed to be there. I've turned the apples up the right way and be sure I core them. So we take the expertise of the cooks and we look at the recipes, and we are trying as much as possible to recreate those flavors for people, so that for a sheer $15 or $20, they can take away a taste of Fort York. And this, of course, will help the program. But I do want to tell you that we've been making a seed cake. Now, the cakes in the 18th century are fabulous. They start out with, I was expert on this, but the part that I know about is when they are basically making delicious pound cakes with lots of eggs, lots of butter, and sugar and flour. And the one that is called a seed cake. And seed cakes are very old-fashioned, and the seeds are caraway seeds, very northern. But they take a long time to cook, and they are very dense. So many times I have witnessed are taking one of these seed cakes, and Maya makes the full cake, which is this big. So, however, not many people are likely to make a cake that big, so they're more likely to have an 8 by 8. So this is what the seed cake is going to be in for the cookbook. This will provide 60 pieces, as you will soon see. And it's a very lovely cake to have with a cup of tea, or even a glass of sherry or port. But getting the cake done in the middle is like a royal, whatever. Because we'll have the cake, it has all the tests. It's golden brown on the top, it's brown around the outside, the sides have come in, we put a skewer in, we put in a knife, because some 18th century cook said, do it with a knife, so we do it with a knife, and you know what, it comes out